This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. If you like what you're listening to, please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. And we really quickly wanted to say, last week we mentioned that we are now working with a company called Audio Boom, which means there may be some ads coming in the near future that we'll talk about. But if some of you who have written to us and said, is there going to be an ad-free version of the show? There will be. If you are subscribing to our Patreon page for $5 a month, then whenever we start making episodes with ads in them, we will give those Patreon subscribers or higher an ad-free version. Yep. So yay, good, that'll happen.
So yeah, that's at our $5 level. So if you're already there, it will be wrapped up in that 5 or higher. I think the lowest is 3, and with the 3, you still get access to the our bonus feed, or whatever. So all the things I've done with my husband or with my friends, you can get those at 3, but once you get to 5, we'll be doing ad free. So that's pretty exciting. Also, at the top, yesterday, I guess. We started a Facebook group for the podcast.
Private Facebook group.
A private Facebook group. Like anyone can find it, but not anyone can see that you're in it is sort of how that works. And yeah, already we've got like 130 or so people, which is really cool.
We'll post a link in the show notes for anyone interested in that. So come join if it's one reason you should use Facebook.
I'm hoping we can build a little community there, and maybe we'll post these shows and people can talk about it, or people can bring their various religious grievances and to it.
We're just going to argue about Richard Dawkins all day,
for
every
the rest
day.
of our lives.
Yeah. Have fun with that notification feed.
It's Thursday night. You're here at my house. We're drinking wine. This is like a real old school.
It's only been like a year and a half.
I know. A nice old school record. Guys.
I have no idea if you know this story.
Oh.
Because this happened
like a threat.
Today. Who knows? It might be. Guess who got arrested today?
Who?
Josh Duggar.
No shit.
Yes. Haven't heard his name in the news in like forever.
It took me a second to click in who he was without context.
Just in case.
Really?
The brief history of Josh Duggar, if you watched the TLC show, 172 kids
19
and
kids and counting.
He was one of the kids.
Yeah.
He's one of the quiverful Duggars. And then, was it 2015, there was a report, long story short, I'm not going to rehash all of that, but basically 4 of his sisters said he inappropriately touched them, and one girl who wasn't part of their family. He did this when they were all underage, I think including him. But there was like a police report filed at the time about it.
Right.
No charges were ever filed against Josh Duggar. But it did happen. Like the family admitted it happened.
It was his sisters and then like an outside person, if I remember right.
5 girls.
Oh, Jesus.
And again, the family decided we're not going to press charges. And I don't remember what happened with that 5th girl. But like, okay, it's one of those things where it happened. No one's denying it.
Right.
Whatever excuses they want to give. But there was that incident. There were also lawsuits from both Josh and from his sisters suing the magazine that published that information, saying, we didn't give you permission to go public with this.
Is that how that works?
That's not really how that works.
Even if it was about minors? At the time?
That's their argument.
Oh,
like, this may have been a police record, but it involved minors, and how dare you. Okay. I don't remember, honestly, what came of that, but, like, nothing really seemed to happen,
nothing.
I don't think. But anyway, that all happened, like, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And that wasn't all, because Josh Duggar couldn't stop being in the news.
Right.
There was a cheating scandal where it involved a porn star who said he paid me for, quote, rough sex, and it was painful. Ooh. And it's like, where did that come from all of a sudden? But okay.
No.
Again, no charges, I don't believe, were filed. It was just one more thing to add to this guy's list.
Right.
And then in 2019, I should add one more thing. By the way, Josh Duggar checked himself into rehab after that incident.
For sex addiction, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, boy.
And then his brother ran for the Arkansas State House last year.
How did that go?
He lost. But because he was running for office, it's like, all right, let's bring up all the Duggar stuff again.
I'm kind of shocked that a person with the last name... This is going to sound sarcastic. I do not mean it to be. A person with the last name Duggar could lose an election in Arkansas. Like, it just seems like...
I thought his family would be the majority of the voting base.
But, like, name recognition is such a huge deal that you'd think, like, oh, Duggar, I fucking know that name.
Yeah, he lost. I don't remember if it was close or not. But anyway, it brought up the story again. And at some point, you would think, okay, you know what? The majority of the family is not in the news anymore. I don't remember if the girls still have a TV show. Some of the girls might. They did for a little while.
Yeah.
But he's been out for a while. So what the hell is this guy getting arrested for now? Does it have to do with all that stuff back then?
That's what I'm asking you, Hammond.
Yes.
You have the information.
Oh, right. So here's what we know.
Okay.
No, it doesn't have to do with that, which is even weirder because, like, what else is he doing?
Didn't he learn his lesson?
Yeah.
Okay.
In 2019, here's kind of all we know, because as we're recording this, they have not publicized any charges against him. We just know federal officials arrested him today. He's held in detention right now, but he hasn't been formally charged yet. It seems like he does know what he's getting charged for, though. The only thing I could point to is that in 2019, like Homeland Security federal agents raided a used car dealership he owned and took stuff, kind of like they did with Rudy Giuliani this week, where they're like,
what a great
we
day
have
that was.
reason to invade this dude's property because we need some stuff because we're afraid we may not have that stuff if we don't go in now. They got stuff, and it's like everyone knew it. Like, that's Josh Duggar's car lot. What's up there? Last year, that car dealership closed out of nowhere, and you're like, maybe.
So 2019 it was raided?
2019 it was raided.
2020
At some point,
closed.
the car dealership closed, and you're like, well, pandemic, who knows why it's closed.
Yeah.
And the thing is, no one ever really reported why were they digging into his stuff. What was it that they could be looking for?
Could be something boring like tax evasion.
I don't know. There are reports that it could be anything from like fraud to something much more serious, some sort of, I mean, it's got to be a federal crime, which is why there are federal agents coming after him.
Yeah, that's huge.
But they haven't announced it. But it's one of those, like, it involves Josh Duggar. By the way, he also worked with the Family Research Council, which is a hard right conservative Christian organization. So I don't know what he did. They got the mugshot. He's there in jail. I don't know what he did yet. I'm very curious.
Ugh, this whole thing sucks. Like, it just bums me out that these, like, this family made this dumb decision, like, how many fucking kids can we have? And they're all just, like, they didn't get enough attention growing up. Like,
the saddest thing.
How do you parent 20 kids?
Yes, that is a very, very good question.
I watched my 1-year-old niece for, like, 4 hours last weekend, and I was fucking exhausted. Like, it was all of my attention that it was on her. Like, you cannot possibly have a 1-year-old running around fucking shit up and also a 12-year-old who you need to teach morals to. Like, it simply can't be done.
Yeah, I have 2, and neither of them are getting morals.
No,
we haven't
obviously
we haven't
not.
had time for that
No.
Are you kidding me?
Even in the last year when you've done nothing but stare at your children.
I've been staring at my computer for the past year.
Ugh, your kids haven't FaceTimed me by accident in a long time, and it's a real... Maeve has... My niece, who, by the way, tomorrow's her birthday. Happy birthday, Maeve.
Birthday.
This weekend is her birthday party. It's going to be interesting. But I don't remember what I was going to say about that.
That's okay. Kids have no morals was where we were going with this.
Oh, no, I was going to say Maeve has started to accidentally FaceTime me.
Nice.
And so... Your son is off the road. Like, he doesn't have to... Off the hook. He doesn't have to... call me to make me feel good about myself and think my good friend Hammond is calling, but really it's a toddler who doesn't know how phones work.
It'll happen again soon, I'm sure.
I'm very excited about it.
I wanted to follow that up with a genuinely happier story that's going to make you go wild. Okay. There's a newspaper in West Virginia, Grafton, West Virginia. It's called the Mountain Statesman. Small, local paper, whatever. Here's the thing about local papers. Like, there's usually only 1 or 2 people that work at these places. Like... may they do everything they can. That's such a hard job. But also, they'll also publish damn near anything. And local papers are fun because they will write stories about things you would never read about in national papers.
Shout out to the West Clark Fork Journal, which is the Bitterroot Valley or even just the Darby area newspaper in Montana. I used to read that all the time, and because I was a pretentious twat, I would sit at the bar when I was bored and copy edit it while I was drinking.
Nice.
Anyway, I had a fantasy that I would move back to Montana and take over the West Clark Fork Journal and like turn them all into like my liberal allies.
This is at least a 4-part Netflix series.
I mean, I would write and read a romance novel about this, actually.
Yes.
Actually, I'm going to write that down.
Future plans.
Cut this out.
No, I'm not cutting this out. So they'll publish damn near anything.
Yes.
And the thing is, last weekend, and their paper comes out twice a week, but last Saturday is one of those days.
That's ambitious.
And they published a letter to the editor that like generated the sort of reactions reserved for like a bad take in a national newspaper.
Okay.
And everyone's like, why would you publish this?
This isn't the Disney guy, is it? Oh, let's talk about the Disney guy, though.
Oh no, not the woke Disney guy.
Oh my God,
no, different guy. I'm gonna read you this relatively short letter from Kenneth K. Litzinger. Dear editor, I am writing. Oh, by the way, he's not even responding to anything in the paper. He's just straight up, I'm bored. I'm going to write a letter to the editor.
Okay, I have grievances I must air.
Yes. Dear editor, I am writing this letter to you in regard and concern to how terrible the United States is becoming. No period. I am referring to how liberal and munificent this country is gradually becoming. As I had told you before, the more time goes on, the worse matters become. I'll pause for a moment.
Yeah,
far, cranky old man getting off his grievances, writing a letter. All right, fine, I've seen it before.
I've never heard the word munificent before.
I don't know if that's what he meant to write. It is a word. I don't know if that's the right word.
Okay,
but
here's the thing is...
You don't want to waste your time on munificent. It's getting good.
No, wait, I just want to say, because it's wonderfully ironic, that munificent, I think he means it to be like welfare state, but what it really means is like being very generous and welcoming and bountiful and wonderful.
How
so he's
dare
like,
we.
yeah, exactly.
So the more time goes on, the worse matters become. I am a male WASP, meaning that I am of Anglo-Saxon descent. Actually, I wrote Anglo-Saxon decent. And in position to the Roman Catholic Church, which is not what Protestant means.
No.
WASP is white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a WASP, ... I'm in position to the Roman Catholic Church. I don't think he knows what WASP means.
No, he just thinks it means a white person.
Yeah.
Like a white...
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he just saw WASP and he's like, I see a W,
Maybe he
I'm
thinks
good.
it's like white Anglo-Saxon person. And it's like, yeah, that's me.
So he goes on, I am a firm believer in sticking to the conservative status quo. Quo is in all caps. I believe that men are the head of the household, and women basically should be barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen. That's a real sentence.
This is satire, right?
No. The United States has gone...
They can't take barefoot and pregnant back. That was what we use. I don't like when they try to... Ugh. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
That's his fantasy right there. Barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen. The United States has gone too far to the left. Women's occupation should only be elementary school teachers, nurses, and Sexetarys.
I'm sorry. Did you say secretary?
Sexetarys.
Are you...
I'll get to the footnote that also comes with this letter, in which he defines, I'll just jump to it right now.
Please.
Sexetarys is an old urban word. It is not misspelled. According to multiple dictionary references, there's no way this is in the dictionary. A sexetary, Urban Dictionary, yeah. A sexetary is an attractive office assistants who perform office duties, are available for sexual activities whenever and wherever the employer wants. Closed quotation marks. There was never an open quotation marks. He defines sexetaries.
So a sex worker who also does your filing?
I think. I don't think there's any payment involved.
Well, ostensibly, if she's like working at his office, then the sex work would just be under her like umbrella of her salary, right?
That's true. I don't think the union bargained for that one, though.
That's a good point.
And then he continues,
we do need strong sexetary unions. I've always said that.
I'm pretty sure that's a movie somewhere. That's an internet rule somewhere. In short, this country is headed on a downhill trail.
That's not an expression.
Having stated such, there are exceptions to the concept of such. Most sincerely.
Buddy.
So that's
Wait, that was the end?
That was the end.
He ended with the word such?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Old man writes that letter where he talks about women ought to be barefoot pregnant and in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And if they want jobs, fine, as long as they're servicing me in the office.
This is strong man shouts at cloud energy here.
Yeah. And they published this letter as is.
Yeah, you gotta at least do a copy edit on that. You know, like, I understand op-eds, like, you want to keep the content the same, but please, we need to read this with our good eyes.
Belongs on this podcast, by the way, because he said WASP and Protestant Roman Catholic, which makes it a religion story. By the way, the newspaper then put up a Facebook post that day on the newspaper's website because they were getting all these calls. Like,
I wonder why.
What the hell are you doing? I think the two staffers are two women, by the way. And they said, today's edition features letters to the editor with some strong views. These views do no reflect those of our staff or necessarily reflect the views of the newspaper, blah, blah, blah. The individual has a right to express said views, and should someone wish to respond, they may do so by following the policy pictured here, ... These views are not those of the paper staff. And everyone's like...
Which is the point of an op-ed, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily reflect the views of the staff, but
Right.
also you published it.
Right. We know it's not your view. We're concerned with the fact that you decided, well, I guess it goes in the paper then. And of course, everyone responding is like, any crazy person can write anything they want.
You don't have to publish it.
You're the editors. Yeah. Like, you can be the filter. That's your job.
Oh my God.
I mean, this isn't a letter saying Trump should have won the election or something, which is a view people may not share, but it's a view.
Right.
Okay, fine. This isn't a different opinion. This is crazy person saying women should suck me off. I don't know what he wants.
I'm glad you didn't
So in
finish
the
that.
follow-up comment, the newspaper says, as long as his letters meet the criteria, they may be published. Discrimination and or bias is not allowed. Like, they're basically making a First Amendment argument that if this guy writes a letter, we have to publish it, which is not how the First Amendment works, or newspapers, or anything.
That's weird. That's very strange.
Each week, we print editorials that are faith-based. We very well could have readers who are non-believers and get offended by them. Again, not the issue. That is not what we're talking about.
No.
Oh, so that was a real letter that got printed.
That's pretty wild. It's been a pretty nutty...
I haven't even gotten to the best part
Of this letter?
of this story.
Oh, I thought we were done. I was moving on Disney World, guy.
I know.
There's more?
There's two more things.
Okay,
One
I'm listening.
is that according to one commenter online, and I could not verify this myself,
God.
she said he has written another letter in the same paper. They published two letters by the same dude. And the other one, he makes a reference to the fact that God doesn't exist.
What?
Which contradicts both the WASP and the Roman Catholic line and makes no sense on any of those grounds.
No, I'm not an expert in religion, but is God pretty important in Catholicism or not that important?
Somewhat.
Okay,
Also
interesting.
in Protestantism.
I know less about that. Is that the George Luther one? No, Martin Luther.
I think you were going to say George Lucas. And I'm pretty sure that's a different origin story altogether.
Lucas is Star Wars. Martin Luther is the Protestant guy. I paid attention in high school.
Wait, that's not the worst part. Because okay, so I can't verify that he said he doesn't believe in God. That's a letter that got cut off from all the screenshots online. The other thing is this guy is a convicted sex offender.
You don't fucking say.
According to
You
state
don't fucking say.
to state police and the police record that is publicly available online, Mr. Litzinger once attempted to, and I quote from the charging document, commit second-degree sexual assault. He served 4 months in jail. This was about 20-some years ago. He paid his dues, I guess.
I'm impressed that he got locked up for sexual assault. That seems like a pretty hard conviction to land.
And now he's like, let me tell you what women should be. Like, he hasn't changed, maybe?
No. He definitely hasn't changed. Wowee. That's a spicy meatball you gave me there. So he thinks women should only be pregnant or...
Barefoot in the kitchen.
Barefoot pregnant in the kitchen or... giving him BJ's at the office.
Or nurses. They could be nurses.
Nurses? I mean, yeah, nurses are badasses.
But if you're not going to be a nurse, he has another job for you.
Yeah. You have a finite number of choices.
Was in the career planning guide. Come on.
Can we just like briefly talk about the Disney one? Because...
Yes, and I have to say, like, I didn't read this article yet. I just heard everyone talking about the article.
Oh my God, it's incredible. Essentially, this man who, I'm going to show you his picture, he's like an old white dude. Like
he looks white.
Like he is not a... like a young person who the magic Disney was made for. And
yeah, that guy shouldn't be at Disney World unless he's bringing his kids.
I think he has human children. But his primary complaint, actually, I don't think he mentions kids.
Speaking of like a letter, this is a opinion piece that was published where? The
Tampa Bay. The Orlando Sentinel.
So this got published in a legit newspaper.
Like a real newspaper. Okay. He said, I'm going to just give you a paragraph that's going to kind of give you a peek into his mind.
Okay.
More broadly, like many corporations, Disney has been politicizing its business. Full disclosure, I am a Christian and a conservative Republican, so the people who run Disney and I do not see eye to eye. Now... I'm going to read a couple
Disney
select
has catered
polls.
To religious conservatives so much.
Have you ever seen, are you familiar with Trader Sam?
No.
Okay, I wasn't either, and I looked it up. So while I'm reading this paragraph to you, could you just go ahead and look up Trader Sam, and so you can see sort of the irony of what we're talking about? Disney is in the process of taking the woke scalpel to the Jungle Cruise. Trader Sam is out because he might offend certain people.
This is...
Describe it.
I don't know.
Describe it, coward.
He's black. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what his character is.
I mean, I think he's supposed...
South American indigenous man... And I don't know what he does.
I think it's supposed to be a la, I think, Friday from Robinson Crusoe, of just like the helpful native.
Oh, okay.
Is my... I've been to Disney.
So this is a character that's in Disney World somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not anymore.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So here's maybe my favorite. This is my favorite paragraph for many reasons. So Disney's in process, woke scalpel. Trader Sam is out because he might offend certain people. Every grown-up in the room realizes that Trader Sam is not a representation of reality and is meant to be as a funny, silly caricature. It is no more based in racism than every Disney caricature of an out-of-touch white dad.
First of all, Disney has so many racist characters.
So deeply racist characters.
Isn't Song of the South like the one they...
he talks about Song of the South. He's Morning Song of the South.
Oh, I'm sure
Disney
he is.
proclaims that Splash Mountain must change because of its association with Song of the South.
Uh-huh.
Disney owns Splash Mountain, so it can do what it wants. But if Disney screams at the top of its corporate voice, which is pretty loud, that it's changing to appease a certain political point of view, now every time I look at the ride, I'm thinking about politics. Same with Pirates of the Caribbean. He does a pretty good diatribe on that.
These people who get mad at fictional stories that get updated.
Yeah, I think he does have kids, but what I think is most interesting about his take is it is so... he centered himself in the Disney experience as if Disney is catering specifically to old white guys, whereas like, no, it's a children's park, and guess what? Some children aren't white.
Yeah, like they're updating the park to suit the needs of their new fans.
Right.
Not him.
And also he lives in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah, the typical Disney
Yeah,
audience.
there's more to it, but it's
I'm
just...
going to close the tab with Trader Sam because
you're on the list now.
Yeah.
Really quick, can we touch on the Rubio op-ed too? Marco Rubio?
Which one did he write? You sent me this.
I did send it to you. I'm mostly thrilled about it. Like, it's definitely a very typical, he's saying... He's almost getting the point, but not quite. But guess where he wrote his op-ed in?
Where?
The New York Post. which is...
The Rupert Murdoch tabloidy type of paper.
Yeah, so he was... Oh, let me find it.
The New York Post, by the way, has published like article after article saying, look, vaccine side effect.
Oh my God,
like,
the New York Post
over
is villainous.
and over without properly characterizing those as anomalies.
So Marco Rubio maybe wrote my favorite op-ed of all time because essentially he is mad that corporations are not supporting quote unquote traditional values anymore. And they're and like basically he's like, so we decided, we the Republicans are like, hey, we're gonna make it as easy as possible for you to earn money. And then what do these dickbags do? They try to earn more money by like moving over offshore or like getting their labor outsourced and things like that. That's not what this is about. He's just mad that his party, who all they've done is make sure corporations can do whatever they want in the name of profit, are now doing whatever they want in the name of profit.
Which means supporting, like, voting rights.
It is very much like, I did not think the face-eating tiger party would eat my face. Like, it's exactly like that. And it just really, like, makes my little socialist heart sing. Of like, what? The corporations don't have American ideals in mind? They have only profits in mind? I wish anybody could have warned us against that. Anyway, that's Op-Ed Corner. Big week for op-eds.
Big, yeah. I'm going to jump to a story that I don't think you've heard it because it's a Canadian politics story, but you're going to enjoy it. Well, there's a bill that's being passed in Canada that would be a federal ban on conversion therapy. That's a good thing. Conversion therapy is it doesn't
This is a
work.
Canadian bill?
Bill, federal bill.
Great.
We're going to ban conversion therapy. Right. It is in the stages of becoming a law. There's multiple hurdles you have to get through. This week, it's gone through those hurdles. So it's on its way to becoming a law. That's good. Recently, there was a conservative politician named Tamara Jansen, who was basically voicing her opinion. It's like a Senate floor speech against the bill. She likes conversion therapy. She wants gay people to become straight.
Get those suicide rates up.
Right. And so here's what she wanted to say. She wanted to say, I know somebody who said she was a lesbian and is no longer, and she went through the therapy and it helped her, and don't we want to help her? How dare we ban such a therapy? That's basically the story she wants to tell. Here's what she said.
Wait, I have a question. Yeah. I'm sorry I just want to clarify because it's occurred to me, I've only ever heard of conversion therapy being used on children. When I think about conversion therapy bans, to me it is you can't send your 12-year-old gay kid off to camp in hopes that he becomes straight or whatever. But is it like if I was an adult queer person and did not want that for whatever reason?
You're asking a good question, and I don't know what the answer is. Okay. I don't think this would stop adults going to their church and trying to do that. This would stop like therapists who are federally licensed or whatever from being able to offer this if you want to remain like a professional in good standing.
Gotcha. Okay.
But in this case, what she actually said was, I want to make sure I'm quoting this correctly. I apologize. I want to make sure this is right. Yes. Charlotte, a young woman in Calgary who's involved in lesbian activity, struggled with self-worth and depression. She reached a point in her life when she did not want to continue with her lesbian activity, and her parents supported her choice and helped her find a counselor who helped her process the feelings.
Her parents helped her.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, everyone heard that, and they're like, I mean, what are you talking about?
Is that even a real person?
Yeah, that too. All of a sudden, lesbian activity began trending on Twitter. And the responses of people saying, what is lesbian activity? Since you made that such a clinical phrase. Tonight's lesbian activity is convincing my kids to go to bed even though the sun is still up and there's no online school tomorrow. Currently eating breakfast poutine because I just had a deep craving for fries and hollandaise sauce. Just another Saturday of lesbian activity.
Wait, there's hollandaise sauce on poutine?
Yeah, sure.
I fucking love hollandaise sauce.
Fellow gays, I'm old and out of touch. What kind of activities are we lesbians meant to be doing? I hope it has nothing to do with baking. I'm useless. Happy Lesbian Visibility Day. And then for a separate reason, Dairy Queen was trending because that sort of thing happens. And so all of a sudden you see in Canada what's trending on Twitter. It's Dairy Queen and lesbian activity.
That's very funny.
Someone did the tweet where it's like, Dairy Queen, lesbian activity, we treat you right.
I don't know, my friends...
good times.
My best friends who live in Portland just planted a whole huge vegetable garden, so that's their lesbian activity for the week. They haven't stopped talking about it for a month.
Anything goes. It's a happy story.
Yay.
We have talked about this person, too. This is Kelly Shibaka. She is an Alaska Republican who wants to challenge Lisa Murkowski next year when she's running for re-election for Senate. Murkowski is a Republican.
Right.
She's one of the moderate-ish Republicans who might be a vote.
So this woman is running to the right of Murkowski?
She's running to the right of Murkowski. She wants to beat her in a primary. And her whole pitch is she's more Trumpian and Murkowski's a traitor to Republicans, even though she's not. But anyway, Shibaka, I think we talked about her before because there was, as soon as she announced that she was going to run, or at least that she was considering it, it was easy to find out. This is a woman who used to be a pastor of a very conservative church that allows women to be pastors, but they speak in tongues. She believes in faith healing and all of that. Well, now CNN has dug in more to her past, and she's written a lot of articles under her maiden name that were published. I think she went to Harvard. That wouldn't surprise me because a lot of these people, the right Republicans who end up in politics, they go to good schools.
And then decry good schools for the rest of their career. Like
Ted
real
Cruz,
cool
like those
non-hypocrites.
elitists. Like Josh Hawley, you went to whatever, Harvard or Yale Law.
Like, if Josh Hawley doesn't convince you that, like, quote-unquote good schools mean fucking nothing, I don't know what to tell you.
So Shibaka has written in the past that conversion therapy works, that sexual molestation is the reason people are gay, that Twilight is evil.
Wait.
The book series.
I mean, the movie series is terrible.
She's 1 for 3.
Yeah, arguably that one's good.
And there's no wall of separation between church and state. Just, no, doesn't exist.
Oh, shoot. Well,
it's a
because
hoax.
the phrase separation of church and state came between, like, it doesn't exist in the Constitution.
She's not saying the phrase doesn't exist. She's saying, nope, it's just not a thing. Which is, no.
So the First Amendment is not...
She doesn't interpret it that way.
I see.
Jesus wins.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, the whole thing is, she told CNN, like, she wasn't going to respond to any of this, I'm sure. She issued, like, at the time when she said gay conversion therapy is, like, good.
Super great.
And that gay people can, quote, come out of homosexuality with the help of Jesus.
Blah.
At the time that she wrote that, she also, like, a day or two later, because there was backlash, she issued one of those apologies to those I have offended.
Sorry I offended you.
But she told CNN she doesn't hold that point of view today, referring to conversion therapy, but only to conversion therapy, which means I can assume she still thinks church-state separation is a hoax.
She still thinks Twilight is garbage.
She still thinks Twilight is garbage, which is an acceptable opinion.
Yeah, listen. They're very readable books. They're just not good at any...
The thing is, like, Lisa Murkowski has had a rough go trying to get elected in the past, but Alaska now has ranked choice voting, like Maine does.
Oh, do they?
Which makes it even hard, without getting into details, it makes it harder for extremists with a small but vocal base to run away with the sort of primary. Even if you're a Republican who isn't in love with Lisa Murkowski, she might be like a solid second choice for you, even if you like another non-crazy candidate.
I hope ranked choice voting takes hold. It would be so much better.
Now, here's a question I couldn't figure out for myself.
Okay.
And I thought about this for a little while, more than I want to admit. Would I rather have, assuming Murkowski is running again, all signs point to she will, would you rather have someone like her win that primary, because she would probably win the seat, it's a red state, or do you take the risk and want someone like Kelly Shibaka to win, because now you have batshit crazy on the ballot for Republicans against who knows who on the Democratic side, but batshit crazy Republican in a red state? Now what do you do? Because here's why I couldn't decide. This gets back to like Alabama with Tommy Tuberville against Doug Jones. You have a fine Democrat and an insane guy who knows nothing Republican in a very red state. They voted for the guy who knows nothing.
Right.
Of course they did. But also there have been times when Republicans put up an insane right-wing candidate and it's just too far and they don't win.
That's exactly what happened to Doug Jones. I understand what you mean. And I will admit, have thought about that a lot of like, yeah, I hope somebody like some lunatic primaries like fucking Ted Cruz and whips that out.
Ted Cruz is too liberal for Texas. I'm what you want.
But at the end of the day, I am not sure I'm willing to take the gamble. I think if we're talking about, I think the Senate and the House are really different. Because each individual senator carries so much more individual weight than an individual in Congress. I don't know why I said individual so many times. But so in the Senate, it does make me quite nervous because that's a fucking 5% of the Senate is going to be this lunatic lady. I don't know. What do you think?
2%.
2%.
It's all good. I don't know if I thought
you got it.
If I thought she would lose, then I'm so willing to take that chance.
Of course, if you thought she was going to lose, like that's...
Murkowski would probably win no matter who she's up against.
Right.
And so it's like, do I take the risk? Or like, because she's not the worst.
She isn't. And I do have like, in terms of moderate...
It's like Joe Manchin. Like, I don't want him in the Senate. I'm glad he's on the Democratic side.
I would take him over anybody else who would fill that seat.
Right, because it would be a Republican. So same thing with Murkowski. I'm like, well, if a Republican has to win Alaska, fine, her, I guess. You're right, because we're not talking about Ted Cruz, or we're not talking about replacing, uselessness with someone crazy.
The thing is, so much of my ire at female senators from red states who are Republicans but moderates, all of that vitriol has really been like focused in over to Maine. So in Susan Collins, like she is like my nemesis now, like personally. She doesn't know this. She's never heard of me, which is probably good for all of us. But I fucking hate Susan Collins because the day of the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, her speech, I was in my empty house, screamed "you cunt" as loud as I could, and then took my dog for a 2-mile walk because I was so like angry in my core.
And yet Democrats couldn't beat her. That's
so fucking mad about it. I gave so much fucking money to the state of Maine. How dare you guys do me like this? Anyway,
there'll be plenty of time to talk about the Senate.
No, I think my rule of thumb is maybe we should keep utter lunatics out of office. I guess would be my rule of thumb. But yeah, if I thought that...
Look at your ideal world that you live in.
Well, but like if there was like the Beto of Alaska, then I would say like, yeah, I'd kind of rather somebody who swings really far right run and maybe we'll, peel off those votes in the center. But A, I don't trust Republicans to not be idiots for a fucking second. And B, I don't want to shock you, I don't follow Alaska politics very closely.
There's
so
some
maybe there
crazy
is
stories in Alaskan politics.
Maybe there is a Beto of Alaska that
one of their state lawmakers this week refused to wear a mask on a plane. The plane banned her from flying, but it's Alaska. The only way you can get to the
She's
state
gonna have
capital.
to fucking dog sled to DC every week.
I think her path has to now involve a ferry at the very least.
Jesus,
it's great.
Christ.
Alaska politics is awesome.
You've been to Alaska, haven't you?
Once.
Oh yeah, that's why you couldn't come to my wedding.
That sounds about right.
I really want to go to Alaska. I think it seems fun.
Whenever we can travel.
Yes.
Let's talk
Are you saying we're going to do a partner trip, Emmett?
Yes.
Yes. You would not be a fun vacation buddy.
No, what? Yeah, seriously. You know me.
Like Heaven's on his laptop again.
Look
at this glacier, Hemmett. Is there Wi-Fi or?
I will not stand for this. Let's talk about Catholics.
Okay.
The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is going to meet this summer as they've planned to meet. They do this all the time. And basically, they're going to talk about, like, what do we do about our Joe Biden problem? And here's their problem. The most visible, famous Catholic in the country right now is, and Joe Biden talks about his Catholicism, wears it on his sleeve. You
Plenty.
know that about him. He's pro-choice when it comes to policy, public policy. And here's the question they're trying to figure out. Joe Biden goes to Catholic churches. He attends Mass. Should he be allowed to get communion at the end of the service?
Have we been doing this for like 10 years?
Yes, we have. And now... But they got a Catholic president again.
Oh, I see.
So it's been a long time since they've had to deal with this. It's not just a politician who's pro-choice who's visiting a church. It's the president.
What were JFK's views on reproductive rights? Was it even a thing in the 60s? I'm going to look it up. Go ahead.
Look it up. While you do that, I'll tell this. Basically, Joe Biden has said privately, I think he does follow Catholic doctrine, and he's opposed to abortion personally. I hope I'm not wrong about that. But as far as public policy is concerned, which is the only thing that matters, he's pretty pro-choice. And he supports getting rid of the Hyde Amendment and doing all these things that the pro-choice side wants him to do. He's good about that. But if you're the Catholic Church, you would look at that and say, well, you're not being a good Catholic. It's like supporting same-sex marriage. That goes against what we teach you in this church. And that also applies to Joe Biden. So the thing is, at the end of a service, if the priest is putting a communion wafer on your mouth, because that is a sacrament and it's super important to them, and it is the literal body of Christ, you are eating Jesus, damn it.
Yeah.
Should a priest give you that communion wafer if you are very openly defying the Catholic Church's views? Now, the right answer is no one cares because this is all made up.
Correct.
But if you're a practicing Catholic and you believe in the sacraments and you accept all this stuff, this is a big deal for them to say, here's what they're going to discuss this summer. Should we urge Catholics who don't accept our views? The thing they're going to vote on is not, let's ban pro-choice people from getting communion. It would basically say, it would make clear we, the Catholic bishops in the United States, believe that Biden and other Catholic public figures with similar viewpoints, pro-choice, should just stay seated when we are all getting communion. It's a recommendation to people like Biden that, look, if you come up and ask us, it'll be up to the priest to give it to you or not. And most priests, Joe Biden's priests are yeah, we're giving it to him because this is what we do. It's not our job to judge you. That's God's job. But their recommendation would be, we want to ask you nicely, just stay seated. It's like if you invite a non-Catholic to a wedding.
Yeah.
Just stay seated when they do their Catholic stuff.
I have stayed seated during many a Mass.
So this is what they're voting on. It's not like some rule change or a ban. It's a recommendation. But it's pointed at Joe Biden.
Oh, of course it is.
But the thing is, this is what's boggling my mind. They're going to debate this. Yeah. They're going to decide, should we go through with this? 48%, I think that's the number, 48% of Catholics in the U.S. support abortion rights.
Yeah.
I think it's even higher if you ask them about marriage equality.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but that's the question, right? It is, not to fucking bring up this a slippery slope argument, but why? So does this mean now every person who I could fucking go up and get Mass at my local church and nobody would know who I was. Right. But so now are they going to
take that, Jesus?
Are they going to post a list at the door of their church being we would prefer you not take communion if you are, pro-choice, pro-marriage equality?
The wording that they have is Catholic public figures, not randos. But even if that's the case and they put up a sign that's listen, are you famous? No communion for you unless you're a bigot or you hate abortion rights.
Catholics, you have somebody in the presidency right now. Maybe this isn't your moment to close ranks and try to exclude more people. This should absolutely, from a marketing standpoint, this should absolutely be their moment of hey, the president is Catholic. Anybody can be a Catholic. We embrace everybody. All you have to do is chomp down on Jesus every week, and you're cool. You can have wine at 10 in the morning.
Say what you will about the Mormon Church. If Mitt Romney were president, they would market the shit out of that.
Magic underwear for everyone.
But the Catholic Church is how can we alienate as many people as possible? Let's punish the most famous Catholic in the country.
And then next week, I'm going to have to read another fucking article about, how come the Catholic churches are emptying? Bud, you just had a meeting about it.
Yeah. And what is stunning is, again, if Biden is privately pro-life, as I think he has said he is, they're literally making this rule suggestion to someone who it doesn't even apply to because he's following the rules you want.
Well, and also Joe Biden being personally pro-life, like, it never really mattered because he doesn't get to make any choice for any person with a uterus. But specifically now, I don't think unplanned pregnancies are necessarily like a thing he's concerned about. So maybe his personal pro-life or pro-choice stances aren't relevant right now.
Unbelievable. I should say there was a group called Catholics for Choice, and their president issued a statement basically saying, what the hell are you doing, Catholic Church? They said, for the bishops to consider using the body of Christ as a weapon with which to divide the faithful and punish President Biden is a reprehensible betrayal of the power of the sacraments. After 4 years of tacit complicity with Donald Trump, ... it is glaringly hypocritical for the bishops to suddenly use their voice to condemn President Biden and other Catholic elected officials whose consciences compel them to support abortion rights.
That is brutal. Holy shit. What's the name of that group? I want to, like, give them money.
Catholics for Choice. You don't
I'm not
have
going
to give them money.
Yeah. But, like, I want to meet that writer. That was a really good piece of writing.
Jamie Manson is their president.
Yeah. I am overjoyed with that little diatribe they gave us, because I didn't even consider it. All I was thinking about is like, well, Joe Biden, and it makes sense that,
that's
like,
the thing. If you have half Catholics, if half the Catholics in the United States support abortion rights,
right,
and more than that support marriage equality, you can bet there are a lot of Catholic groups that are like upset with the conservative dogma of the Catholic Church and the fact that they're like, nope, this one doesn't change. This is where we all stand. And they're like, no, we're Catholic too. We know how the game works, and this is not anything that has to be a rule. You could change this one if you wanted to.
And I get that Trump was not Catholic, so it makes sense that they didn't feel like it was their place to comment on it. But like,
but the people who comment on everything always comment on everything. It's not going to stop them.
But man, it's pretty fucking wild that, like, after 4 years of Trump, all of a sudden the Catholic Church is like clutching their fucking pearls. Like, what? He believes a woman should be able to decide what to do with her body? I would never. I don't know what character that was.
I don't either. That's a good segue. Sure.
Thank you.
To this one, to this story out of Oklahoma. There's a state senator, Nathan Dahm. He's a conservative Christian nationalist, Republican lawmaker. You know the type.
Racist.
This is
Is he a white gentleman?
He is.
What?
This is a guy who co-sponsored a bill last year declaring 2020 the year of the Bible.
Fitting.
Fitting
because of the plague.
That backfired, yeah.
The biblical plagues that we experienced all year.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, he sponsored a bill that would have changed state law to say all wildlife found in this state is the property of Almighty God. That's the sort of guy we're talking about here. That's not the story, but that's who we're talking about.
As opposed to what?
I think it said it belongs to the government if you find wildlife on the land. And he said, cross out the government and put God. Like, that was the law he wanted to amend.
I think he could make a pretty strong case to say that wild animals are by definition owned by nobody, but what do I know?
So they're considering a bill. On Earth Day this year, a couple weeks ago, he filed a bill to ban paper straws. Which, all right, it's a right-wing thing. They hate paper straws.
Listen, you know I hate the right wing, but I also hate paper straws.
But you are not saying
fucking much.
No one else is allowed to use them either.
No, if you want to have paper goo in your mouth by the end of your Bloody Mary, then by all fucking means use a paper straw.
And here's the thing. I'm with you on that. I don't like them. This guy wants to ban them from places, so he's insane.
That's a different universe.
Right. And so here's his argument. He wrote this in a press release that he posted on Facebook and is still up on Facebook right now as we are recording, like, weeks later. Like, as in, he did not realize that he should pull this. He's like, nope, I'm standing by this press release.
Now you can delete things.
I know you don't know where this story is going, and you will not be able to guess where this story is going.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Just wait till you find out Remember,
I can take a sip of wine. Don't make me do a spit take.
Right. So Republican arguing about a ban on paper straws.
Okay.
I've never met a single person who enjoys using a paper straw. They fall apart and turn to mush quicker than Joe Biden trying to string together a coherent sentence. I'm not done, but that's joke one.
Oh, that was a joke.
Mm-hmm. They collapse, paper straws, they collapse like Mitt Romney under the slightest amount of pressure. Joke two.
Oh, no. This guy is using a law to work out his tight five.
Yeah. And let me finish that sentence. They collapse like Mitt Romney under the slightest amount of pressure. And even with Kamala Harris, ... Well, never mind.
I don't know what that means. Wait, what's he implying?
That's a good question. What is he implying? Because some people suggested...
Was that connecting Mitt Romney to...
No.
Okay, it was
just a third joke about Kamala Harris.
Thought.
Yep.
Because she's...
I think what he's saying there is...
Mushy?
Even Kamala Harris wouldn't enjoy a paper straw, even though she knows how to suck things. That's the joke he's going for.
No, it is not.
So, just to be clear, because he didn't say it, a local news reporter asked him that day, hey, you made that comment, like, what did you mean by that? And basically his response is like, you know what I meant by that. Okay, well, tell us what I'm paraphrasing their conversation. Well, tell us what you meant by that. I was just a joke. Yeah, but what was the joke? Oh, I think people know what the joke is. This goes on for a while.
Certainly don't, sir.
And
why don't you talk to me like I'm a literal idiot?
Then he posts a tweet, a follow-up tweet. This is Nathan Dom again.
You love a follow-up tweet for a press release. That's just all professional.
None of it denies the interpretation everyone took from his press release. Breaking, if you think I'm going to be politically correct, in quotation marks, you need to realize a few things. One, he numbered the list on Twitter. One, you obviously know nothing about me.
Is this a thread?
It's one tweet.
It's one tweet
but
that's
it's numbered.
Numerals?
One, you obviously know nothing about me.
Obviously.
Two, you're in for a bad time. Three...
Is he quoting South Park?
I don't know. Three, I've been assured my jokes are hilarious.
Oh, honey.
And four, your emotional opinions are irrelevant. Three, I've been assured my jokes are hilarious.
Is it by people who you pay? Because I don't think that can legally count.
Like, here's how...
Wait, one, you obviously don't know me. Okay, that's fair, but the point of a press release is to give information for people who don't know you because they cannot meet you and talk to you. That's why there's press releases.
About paper straws. And now everyone's like, oh, Nathan Dom, the Christian guy, the former missionary who thinks I'll make a subtle joke about how the vice president blew her way to the top.
Yeah, that's the worst in a lot of ways, but also, like, straws aren't inherently sexual.
And paper straws aren't even...
It's one thing if he was, like, doing, like, a popsicle thing. Like, there's a blowjob joke there to be had, but, like...
But straws?
But straws, not really.
Like, buddy, do you even know? I don't know. Conservative Christian, Becca homeschooling.
It's so funny.
Here's how bad his joke was. The Republican...
How bad was it?
The Republican Senate president issued a statement afterwards. I'm disappointed in Nathan Dom's comments about the Vice President of the United States. His comments were misogynistic, disrespectful, immature, and undermine the good work of the staff and other members of the Oklahoma Senate. As the leader of the Senate, I hold senators to a high standard of conduct and decorum, and Senator Dom completely failed to live up to that standard. And do you know how that man punished Nathan Dom?
He did not.
He did not.
Okay. Wowie, wow. It's just like, okay, genuine real question. Why are conservatives physically unable to tell a joke?
I think it goes back. Okay, Rush Limbaugh is supposed to be like the funny radio guy. But
wait, no.
When he
Stop
died,
it. I am not accepting that as a premise. People thought he was funny?
Yeah, when he died, the right-wing reaction was not just, we've lost this right-wing conservative radio host. It was that, you know what I'll miss about him? His humor. Which, again, my reaction was the same as yours. Like, what humor? He wasn't funny.
Is he known for being funny?
If you are a conservative and your idea of joke telling is insult comic humor, where it's like, hey, you know Sandra Fluke? She's a slut.
Oh, I remember the Sandra Fluke thing.
That's his joke. Well. That's the joke. It's not like the thing about right-wing humor is they don't need you to think and make connections in your mind and you're like, oh my God, that's a callback to an old thing. I remember. Ha ha. No, it's just like, let me call this woman the funniest name I can think of.
Okay.
That's the end of the joke.
So I started writing for the Friendly Atheist blog in 2012, and that was when the Sandra Fluke stuff came out. I've probably seen that clip of Rush Limbaugh doing the, what do you call somebody who gets paid to have sex? A prostitute. Like that. Was that?
Yeah. That's what they
Was
missed.
that set up punchline?
Yeah. Have you seen Gutfeld?
I thought he just hated women. What?
There's a comedy show on Fox News.
I watched a couple clips of it, and it's, first of all, they've done the same joke like thrice in a week.
Yeah.
And it's literally all like, someone's about to get canceled. It's so,
yeah.
I've genuinely put a lot of, like, as a person who was or is a comedian, loves comedy, I have thought long and hard about why conservatives just can't be funny. And I think part of it has to do with like punching up versus punching down, where like a conservative is by definition like the status quo and the leader, and they want to conserve that. That's where that word comes from. And so all they can do is make fun of people who are less powerful than them. And also, I think comedy requires some amount of empathy, which seems to be in short supply. I'm sure somebody smarter than me has like given this a lot of thought and figured out what was going on. Was it you?
No.
Oh.
I think there are some good scholarly like papers on conservative humor versus liberal humor that are fascinating, because there are things you recognize and you're like, yeah, that is how jokes that I find funny work.
Yeah.
And then you realize how right-wing humor works, and it's not funny, it's just
it's
insults.
Just constantly punching down is the thing. And to me, like, that's deeply unfunny.
Speaking of unfunny, I'm getting to this story.
Here we go.
Yep. Newt Gingrich was on Fox News last Saturday, and he was basically talking.
I genuinely thought he was dead. Oh my God. When you said that, I was like, is he okay? No.
He's still alive.
Newt Gingrich is alive.
He's commentating and doing whatever
all
it
right,
is he
all right.
does.
I'm starting to remember this. I feel like he did something stupid, and we're all going to have to remember that he cheated on his dying wife.
We'll get there.
Okay, cool.
He was attacking Joe Biden. Joe Biden hates traditional values, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, hates traditional values.
And here's his example. Here, I'm quoting Newt Gingrich on Fox News. Every idiotic thing that the Biden administration has done in the first 100 days, you begin to realize whether it's threatening everybody who believes in the Second Amendment, or it's attacking everybody who believes in right to life, or it is attacking people of traditional values who are appalled that this administration would fly the gay flag at American embassies all over the world. That's a thing everyone's mad about, because some U.S. embassies, well, all U.S. embassies, are now allowed to put out a rainbow flag to mark like Pride Month. And during the Trump administration, they were not allowed to. And now Biden's like, yeah, we're going to get rid of that rule. And Newt Gingrich is like, what?
Can I?
We are traditional.
So he's mad about embassies. I would like to tell a brief
all Americans are mad about the embassies.
Oh, sorry.
He speaks for all of us, thank you.
Sure. I have a brief anecdote. When I was 20, I did a semester in London. This is 2000, doesn't matter, 7, maybe 6. And the guy, we were in like a British culture class or whatever. It was all utter bullshit, but I got a few anthropology credits out of it, and I got to hang out in London for a while. Anyway, this guy was like, the weirdest thing in the world is the fact that in London, like, they don't carry guns, and like cops don't carry guns in London. And the only place you can always see guns is outside the U.S. Embassy. And I think that ruined me for, like, the Second Amendment, because I was so deeply embarrassed. Like, who the fuck wants to raid our fucking embassy? Like, nobody is good. Oh,
no one looks last week when we were talking about the Dawkins thing, we were like, the people mad that he lost an award that he once got. These people didn't even know that award existed.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the same thing. No one knew these embassies were flying rainbow flags. And now they're like, what? It might happen if you're Newt Gingrich. Again, what else do you have to complain about?
It seems that conservative Republicans in the United States aren't really incentivized to travel internationally, so I don't think they have to worry about the look of our U.S. embassies because they will not have to witness them themselves.
The idea that this is what everyone's talking about right now.
They're so accepting of queer people. I hate it so much. That's them.
I don't know what that soundbite was.
It's just a character I was doing who is like a sort of a slow-speaking right-wing person who loves guns, I guess. And so his tongue turned to liquid in his mouth. I'm sorry, keep going.
That works.
Yeah.
I want to jump to Australia really briefly because I got a lot of people sending me the same story, which that only happens when something feels pretty big and everyone's like, you're going to want to cover this. And this story was from Australia because their prime minister, who is a conservative by our definition of the word, somewhat moderate-ish. He's not insane right-wing, but he's Australian right-wing. Scott Morrison. But he basically, what happened is last week, he appeared, surprise guest, at a conference hosted by the Pentecostal Australian Christian churches. Religious gathering, Pentecostal specifically. They were holding their event. And hey, we have a surprise guest speaker. It's the prime minister of our country.
It's a huge deal.
Huge deal. So he gets there, and here's the thing. They didn't announce this anywhere. This wasn't like on his public schedule. This is something he did as the prime minister. He used his prime minister's jet to get there. But he's not doing this, as part of his normal routine or anything. But no one had seen a copy of his speech. And it got released. And basically I think the story is one pastor who was there maybe took video of it because he wanted to share with his church.
Sure.
And basically a secular group downloaded it, got it, and exposed it for everybody.
We're
let everyone
sneaky
see
like
it.
that.
Yeah. And here's the thing. The reason this made news in Australia is because here's what Scott Morrison said. I'm quoting from a news article. This is not his speech. Morrison also revealed that he had sought a sign from God while on the 2019 election campaign trail, and that he had practiced the evangelical tradition of the laying on of hands while working in the role of prime minister. Basically, when he would go to a tragedy area, like after a hurricane or whatever,
sure.
He's not just praying with them, he's putting his hands on them, saying, I hope you get healed because God's going to work through me, whatever.
You're lucky I came along because you would have died.
Yeah.
Because God doesn't give a fuck about you unless I'm touching you.
Quoting him, he said, I've been in evacuation centers where people thought I was just giving someone a hug, and I was praying and putting my hands on people, laying hands on them, and praying in various situations, referring to the aftermath of a cyclone. So anyway, that happened. What's your reaction to all of that?
I mean, not great, but it doesn't seem to be newsworthy territory.
That's exactly where I was. It's like, yeah, I mean, okay, he's a religious guy. He happens to be Pentecostal, but it's like, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, religious people do. I think.
He's a religious guy doing religious things.
Yeah, I think laying on of hands is no different than taking the Jesus cracker or whatever it's called. What's it called?
Communion
wafer.
Yes.
I don't know. It's harmless, I guess. It's not like unless there is more to the story and he laid on hands and it's fucking go home. You don't need a doctor, dude.
No, there was no more to that particular story.
Fine, as long as the hugs were consensual, which who knows at this point.
Yeah, no, everything else seemed up and up. Okay, he's religious and he's talking about doing these crazy religious things, which makes sense in the context of that church, and makes sense if you're Pentecostal. And of course, everyone else is like, what are you doing? That doesn't do anything.
Okay.
But the thing is, this is wildly religious extremist type of behavior in Australia. This is a place where they've elected an open atheist as their prime minister in the past.
Sweet Australians, you don't know how bad it gets.
That's exactly it. It's like, oh, you think that's too much? Oh, let me introduce you to the moderate Republicans. Let me introduce you to the liberal Democrats. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is
No, I
liberal
understand.
Democrat
No,
behavior.
I completely I completely understand that like gut reaction of like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, you think magic comes out of your hands? But I mean, we as a society have decided that certain beliefs that we could have, like my hands are healing, are fine in the context of Pentecostal shit. But like, if me, Jessica, just walks up and says like, I have healing hands, and just touches people, I'd probably be jailed immediately, and rightly so. I would be a danger.
Just to give you a sense of like how this story plays out in Australia, The Guardian spoke to a political historian in Australia who basically shrugged off that this was anything during the story. She's like, it doesn't seem to have much policy content.
Is that the end of the story? Is there more to it than that?
It isn't making him more compassionate to people trying to live on a part of the country. But on the other hand, he isn't trying to ban abortion, and he's not trying to wind back same-sex marriage legislation. He's not a warrior. He is not a political warrior. It may be a guiding philosophy, but it is rather nebulous. Like, not a big deal. Go away. The opposition party's leader, so of course all the pundits are like, hey, people who don't like the guy, what do you have to say about this? That guy, Anthony Albanese, his response, and again, think of all the things he could have said. He's like, for me, faith is a personal matter. I respect people's beliefs. I think separation of church and state is important. I think the idea that God is on any political side is no more respectful than the idea that when someone's sporting team wins. Like, basically, it's a mild, like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
faith.
completely how I feel about it. And maybe we're just broken because U.S. politics is so fucked.
We are so broken that this counts as a scandal in a limited terms, and it's like, not that we ever had that, but I miss
I can't wait to go back to Australia.
I have one last one for you because this is something that is happening now, and it's not that big of a deal. It just made me laugh. Charisma is a Christian publication that publishes, it's not real journalism. It's just, they publish the weirdest voices.
It's like highlights for adults.
Yes, for Christian adults who are charismatic and believe in the laying on of hands and stuff. Here's the thing. I think we talked about this.
And they believe strongly in Goofus versus Gallant. Go ahead. Highlights joke. Fucking nailed it.
Nice. We talked about this. There was a guy named Pastor Jeremiah Johnson who before the election was like, I'm a prophet. God is speaking to me. God tells me Trump is going to win the election.
Oh, did he?
And the thing is, after Trump lost the election, Jeremiah Johnson is like, well, I fucked up. Like, it was that was the reason we talked about it. It's like, this guy's actually going back and he admits he screwed this one up. And it was funny watching this guy kind of work through all this. He's like, maybe I misheard, maybe I misinterpreted what God was telling me.
Buddy.
But he shut down his ministry. He shut it down.
No.
And he's like, I need to take some. No, don't. But he's like, I'm going to take time off and re-engage and maybe some more time to figure out what God wants from me, whatever. But anyway, that was kind of a high profile, this so-called prophet, got this one pretty wrong. Yeah. And there's a bunch of so-called prophets. Sounds like he took the
L, though, which I respect.
He did.
He's not...
relatively speaking.
Who's that guy in the U.S. who kept camping? Harold Camping?
Yeah.
Who was like, it's going to be tomorrow, JK, next month.
That's the thing. Like, prophets, the good in big quotation mark, prophets, no, you don't put an expiration date on your predictions.
Yep.
You can't say Trump is going to win the election. And by the way, I should say a lot of other Christian preachers who say, I am a prophet, God speaks through me, have said, yes, I know I said Trump is going to win the election. It's going to happen.
Or it's an emotional victory and a moral victory.
My favorite reaction was, well, God didn't tell me it was going to be consecutive. That was a real reaction somebody had. Anyway. The thing is, like, you had all these so-called prophets saying Trump is going to win, Trump lost, and if you accept that Trump lost the election, it's like, well, then all these prophets said something that was not true, and we got a crisis in the world of prophecy.
Honestly, I'm surprised that doesn't happen more.
Yeah, because they don't usually make predictions that come with such a definitive, high-profile end date.
Right.
So you could have said this was over when they announced Biden was the winner, or when he got inaugurated, or maybe now.
I don't know. Maybe once Trump dies, we'll be able to put those all to bed.
No. It's a fake. It's a body double, I'm sure.
Fuck me.
But here's the thing. So at Charisma, one of their writers and some other preacher put together a prophetic, what did they call it? A prophetic standards list. Basically saying, we have put together a set of rules that well-meaning prophets should sign on to. It's like the giving pledge. Like, we promise to give away because we're billionaires. We promise to give away, like, most of our money during our lifetime.
Are they asking prophets to chill the fuck out?
Well, so that's the question. Like,
or be less specific?
So they want all these prophets, so-called prophets, to sign on to a statement saying, these are best practices. This is what we will agree to because we don't want to scam anybody.
You keep saying best practices. Best practices are like how I send emails or how like we organize our office. It's not for fucking making prophecies from God.
It's a very long list of standards that they put out there, but here's one of them. We believe that prophecies should first be tested by the word. Then, if the prophetic word is not contrary to the scriptures, it should be evaluated by other mature leaders. ... Those who refuse to have their words tested should not be given a platform. But, again, to paraphrase, they think prophecies like shouldn't be announced or proclaimed unless, like, they don't contradict anything the Bible says. And you have other prophets and Christian leaders who are like, yeah, I'm going to back you up. It's like the worst peer review ever. So that's weird. Like, you want peer review for your predictions that you're just making up? That's messed up. Yeah. That's like an astrologer saying, like, all right, before I announce the horoscope, I'm going to run it by some other astrologers first and make sure it doesn't contradict what we know about the made-up universe.
If prophecies are capital R real, then everybody should be getting the same prophecy, right? Or at least there should be no... That. Oh, they didn't? That's so weird.
Yeah.
It's weird that they don't want to bring those kinds of things up.
They did not mention that one. But, like, that's not science. That's just an echo chamber. Here's another standard that they have. We understand that prophecies can be conditional and that many prophecies will take time to come to pass, ... This means that prophecies that do not contradict the Bible, prerequisite, or that are not contrary to fact, should be evaluated over time and not immediately rejected. Basically saying if someone makes a prediction, let's not attack the prophet. Let's not attack the Christian preachers who say, God talked to me and said this. Sometimes these things take time. So everyone back the hell off.
So what's the point of prophets if you can't do anything with them?
Yeah, it's a good question. They basically, those two rules alone, and there were like more than a dozen rules.
Right.
Those two rules say you could say anything you want as long as you're not like the lone wolf on the cause. And also everyone else, you know, don't be mad just because someone made a prophecy that you didn't particularly like, because it might be true.
Right.
God may have spoken to them, but it's not going to be a snap thing.
I mean, and that's the thing that really bothers me about like psychics and prophecies in general is this sort of idea of like, oh, in hindsight, of course, this made perfect sense, but like, so fucking what? Like,
everything makes sense in hindsight.
Everything can make sense in hindsight if you want to connect the dots in a certain way. But like, if I'm going to a psychic, I would think I want some like actionable shit, not some stuff that in 6 months, like, oh, I did go on a trip in the spring.
Right. It's very horoscopy. So like, I read through those standards. It's like, you're basically giving it out for everything. You haven't changed anything here.
They don't care. They just want to give the appearance of covering their own ass.
Yeah.
And
for prophecy, for predictions.
Prophecy.
Like, let's not be mad at prophets. They might be real, even though that guy was totally wrong and apologized, kind of.
Virtually everyone has been extremely wrong.
They also had a list of people who signed on to the statement, having read it, and like, yes, we agree to this pledge. One of them was
practices.
Jennifer LeClaire, who writes for Charisma and has spread prophecies that are not true for years and years.
Nice.
The other was the CEO of Charisma, Stephen Strang, who is the hub. Like, the Charisma is known as the place that will publish anything.
I know it's only been 2, but I'm noticing a pattern.
Yeah. Jeremiah Johnson, the guy who got the Trump one wrong, he also signed it, which is just funny. Like, you're the one guy who actually handled it, and you're like, yes, I should live up to higher standards.
Oh, that's hysterical.
But some of the prophets that I know I've written about them, but they get a lot of viral videos about, like, you're saying crazy stuff that's not going to happen. They did not sign on to this. So, like, the people that you're writing these rules for, the ones who make you look bad, none of them have anything to do with these. It's just, look at these people trying to solve a problem without getting to the root cause of, like, you're making shit up.
It's so embarrassing.
Stop having rules for your lives.
It's just so undignified. It truly is.
That's it. I was ending on a high note.
That was a strong batch of stories. I would like to say before we go that today actually, today Thursday, the episode for the finale of season 3 of Twin Peaks dropped today. My husband and I have been doing a podcast called Cooper Duper about Twin Peaks, and today was the last episode of canonical Twin Peaks. We're going to do some David Lynch movies in the future.
Congratulations.
Honestly, that felt sarcastic, but I'm very proud of it.
You should be.
It's been a lot of fun. I'm proud of the work that we did, which sounds, again, it's just my voice. It sounds sarcastic, but like it was fun dissecting stories and trying to interpret David Lynch, which is virtually impossible. It was just I'm very proud we did it. I'm really glad I have that sort of little piece. So if you need shit to do and want to rewatch Twin Peaks, I guarantee you it won't make sense anyway, but our podcast might help a little. Join our Facebook group, which I'm very excited about.
Donate to Patreon, patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast. If you give $5, you will get ad-free versions of future podcasts.
Which isn't a problem this moment, but hopefully we'll be able to read some ads sooner or later and we don't get knocked out because of the big scary A word. You can, if you need a present or something, I run a cross-stitch shop on Etsy called Bitches Get Stitched Done. I do a lot of custom work. I'm working on one for a listener right now that is like a subtle LGBTQ border that we're both pretty happy with. So, I do all custom shit. So if you have a phrase that you want, slap some flowers on it, it'll be art. Do you have anything else?
No, we're
YouTube,
good.
Anything?
Go to YouTube.
All right.
Not the rest of it, just my stuff.
Talk to you next
You'll find it. Bye.